President of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, delivered the traditional annual speech at the opening of the Congress sessions. In Spain, healthcare workers took to Madrid streets once again, demanding that a negotiations table be set up to discuss wage increases. And the Finnish parliament voted in favor of joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in advance of pending ratifications from Hungary and Turkey. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The President of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, delivered on Wednesday the traditional annual speech at the opening of the Congress sessions. The Argentine president addressed the traditional legislative assembly in which he presented the economic and social challenges of the last year of his administration and inaugurated the new legislative year in the country. Vice President Cristina Fernandez was in charge of the formal rigors of the act, receiving and escorting the president to the Senate. During his speech, President Fernandez outlined the economic and social challenges of his last year in office. The country will hold general elections in October 2023. In his speech before the Congress, President Alberto Fernandez asked the justice system to punish the material and intellectual authors of the murder attempt against the Vice President Cristina Fernandez.
We were faced with one of the most unfortunate episodes of the last 4 years, the assassination attempt against our Vice President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. And in front of all of you, I once again ask the justice system to deepen the investigation of that event, to judge and condemn those who were the material and intellectual authors of that murder attempt.
The Argentine leader also discussed his administration's management of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I was able to confront the private creditors, and I was able to put a stop to the conditions that the International Monetary Fund had imposed on the government I presided over. I was the one who put the burden on the pandemic and who finished building hospitals that some governors had considered unnecessary when I arrived. And I was the one who built modular hospitals and distributed more than 40,000 ventilators throughout the country, while I set up a health system that had been abandoned. I went around the world looking for vaccines for COVID-19, and I arranged for millions of free doses to be given to every Argentinian who demanded.
Fernandez also spoke about the management of his administration in regards to foreign policy and regional integration.
Of management, we have developed a foreign policy based on cooperative multilateralism. We strongly support peace, international security, peaceful solutions, and environmental care. In all forms, we advocate for cooperative, equalitarian solutions to the major problems. Argentina has returned to occupy a place in the concert of nations. We did, based on our identity and defending our interests. We raised our voice in the CELAC, in Mercosur, in the America Summit, in the G20, and in the G7. We aspire to be part of the BRICS. We dialogue with the leaders of the world seeking to contribute to the world peace and Latin American unity. Argentina has permanent interest in maintaining a close relationship with Brazil. It's one of them.
We move on to other topics. In Ecuador, university student organizations demanded the resignation of President Guillermo Lasso or the reactivation of constitutional mechanisms for his removal. Gathered outside the Central University of Ecuador, the student leaders pointed out that in addition to the illegal acts, the current government does not guarantee the basic budget for public education. They mentioned that the Central University is owned $10 million by the state and the University of Guayaquil is owned more than $5 million thus cutting funds for the training of professionals. Lazo's government was very weakened after the electoral setback of this proposal for a constitutional referendum, and there are predictions that he will not reach the end of his term scheduled for 2025. In Puerto Rico, labor, civil and environmental organizations gathered on Tuesday to protest against the electricity bill, an increase proposed by the adjustment plan that seeks to pay the debt contracted by the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. The demonstration denounced the increases in the rates charged since 2021, when electricity distribution was assigned into the hands of the private company Luma Energy. Puerto Rico's power grid has become very fragile in recent decades, a situation that has worsened in the last 3 years as energy production has been below 50%. Puerto Ricans believe that since the arrival of Luma to control the island's electricity distribution, service has not been improved, but rather the cost of the service has been increased in a way that is unsustainable for many citizens and businesses. And the Cuban government announced on Tuesday that a domestically produced vaccine against cancer shows encouraging advances. Health experts and scientists from the Molecular Engineering Center, the ZIM, discussed the encouraging results of the research in oncology achieved during 2022, highlighting the great advances in immunotherapy and the vaccine Sixamax EGF for cancer treatment in clinical trials in patients at high risk of lung cancer. Regarding the projections for clinical trials at the Molecular Engineering Center in 2023, Dr. Mayra Ramos Susarte, head of the Clinical Trials Department of the institution, informed the center has 20 products under development and 11 under research. She also detailed that there are 30 ongoing clinical trials, 70% of which treat cancer patients. Together with the CIM, there are 40 hospitals and 100 clinics involved in the study in the 15 provinces of the country. President Miguel Díaz-Canel described as promising the research being undertaken by the Center for Molecular Immunology. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Tens of thousands of health workers took to Madrid's streets once again, demanding that a negotiation table be set up to discuss wage increases. The demonstrations took place despite measures taken by the Ministry of Health that include increasing the budget for improving working conditions by 55 million euros, with a supplement of 400 euros per month for every patient treated, plus 50 euros per hour for those who extend their working day. However, the strike committee stated the 400 euro supplement is detrimental to another already in place and added that increases of 50 euros per hour have been enforced since 2019. In Greece, a passenger train with more than 350 passengers collided with a freight train early Wednesday in the northern part of the country, killing 36 people and injuring more than 80 others so far. According to the National Fire Service, 85 people are reported injured, 25 of whom are in serious conditions after the accident, which also caused the fire. The agency also reported that the collision took place in circumstances that have not been determined and that Wagens 1 and 2 are completely disintegrated. Meanwhile, the fire department said that it mobilized 40 specialists and 17 vehicles. Authorities also stated that ambulances are operating at the site, continuing the rescue and treatment work with the affected people. Greece has declared a 3-day mourning period with a flag at half-mast, starting Wednesday following the deadly incident. Following the sinister, the station master was taken into custody. And members of the new Cypriot government were sworn in before President Nikos Christodoulis at the presidential palace in the capital Nicosia. Previously, on Tuesday, Nikos Christodoulis was sworn in as the 8th President of the Republic of Cyprus, pledging to address the issue of illegal migration and combat corruption. The former foreign minister also vowed to break the deadlock that has left the eastern Mediterranean island divided for decades. Christodoulis won over Andreas Mavroyiannis in a runoff vote on February 12th. This was the first time a head of state was elected without the support of the two largest parties, Democratic Rally and the Progressive Party of Working People, and it means the now president has minority support in parliament. And President Xi Jinping received on Wednesday in Beijing his Belarusian counterpart, Alexander Lukashenko. In the meeting, both leaders agreed on a new status of bilateral relations between the nations. According to China's president, the relationship has reached a new level of comprehensive strategic partnership. For his part, President Lukashenko reaffirmed the unbreakable partnership between Minsk and Beijing and also the firm commitment of the two leaders toward peace and stability. The Belarusian president also announced a process of industrial modernization in his country with the support of China. And responding to the comments from the Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Christopher Wray, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning dismissed United States speculation that the COVID-19 pandemic originated from the virus leaking from a Chinese laboratory.
Opposes any political manipulation with the origins tracing in any form. Employing the intelligence community in science matters is in itself the evidence of the politicization of origin tracing. Given that the U.S. intelligence community has been making things up, their conclusion lacks credibility. By rehashing lab leak theory, the U.S. will not succeed in discrediting China. Instead, it would only hurt their own credibility. We urge the U.S. to respect science and facts, stop politicizing origin tracing, stop turning origin tracing into something about politics and intelligence, and stop disrupting global social solidarity when it comes to combating COVID-19 and global scientific cooperation on origin tracing.
Now we move on to other topics. Turkish authorities confirmed the death toll from the earthquakes that struck the south of the country rose to more than 45,000. In a statement, the Turkish Interior Ministry confirmed that 45,800 citizens were killed by the earthquakes, while over 1.9 million were evacuated from the disaster zone. The statement further said that those who lost their homes were accommodated in more than 300,000 tents and container houses. The earthquakes of magnitudes 7.7 and 7.6 occurred with the interval of 9 hours in Turkey on February the 6th. Underground shocks followed by hundreds of aftershocks were felt in Turkey's 11 provinces, for which Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has declared a 3-month state of emergency. And meanwhile, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday ruled out any delay in elections after the devastating earthquake in February and said the vote will be held on May 14th.
And you should know that people will do what is necessary on May 14th. They will never give a chance to those who keep on telling such lies.
And the 6.5 magnitude earthquake struck the Kimbe region of Papua New Guinea on Wednesday. According to the latest information provided by the United States Geological Survey, the quake was at a depth of more than 500 kilometers. This was the second earthquake in 3 days to strike the remote New Britain region. So far, there were no immediate reports or casualties of material damage, nor has the event prompted any tsunami advisories. Papua New Guinea is exposed to recurring earthquakes due to its location along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a path along the Pacific Ocean characterized by active volcanoes and frequent shakes. And TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Finnish parliament voted on Wednesday in favor of joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in advance of pending ratifications from Hungary and Turkey, increasing the likelihood the country will enter the alliance before Sweden. Finnish lawmakers approved the law, affirming that the nation accepts the terms of the NATO treaty by 184 votes against 7, with 1 abstention and 7 members of parliament not being present. Both Finland and Sweden dropped their decades-long policies of military non-alignment and applied to join the Transatlantic Defense Pact last May. Joining NATO requires ratification from its 30 members, and Hungary and Turkey remains the holdouts. Israelis called for a nationwide protest against the judicial reform promoted by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. According to the protest leaders, the purpose of the action is to denounce the government's proposed judicial reform, which will significantly weaken the oversight power of the Supreme Court. Demonstrations, protests, marches, and temporary strikes were ongoing around the country on March the 1st and will likely continue throughout March the 2nd. Protesters rallied outside the Eretz Israel Museum in Tel Aviv and outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence in Jerusalem. In this context, police and horseback clash with protesters near a popular mall and the main train station in Tel Aviv. As a result, several demonstrators were arrested after allegedly throwing rocks and water bottles at officers. The strikes came as the government moves forward with a parliamentary vote on a bill that will weaken the Supreme Court. The legal overhaul has sparked an unprecedented uprising with weeks of mass protests, criticism from legal experts, business leaders, as well as concern from international allies. The Arab Parliament condemned the Israeli government's plans to accelerate settlement building in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. In a statement, the legislative body of the Arab League called on the United Nations and the international community to take prompt and urgent action to stop the new Israeli government settlement scheme, especially in the city of Jerusalem, as well as the ongoing breaches of the sanctity of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The parliament strongly rejected the occupying power techniques used to force Palestinians out of their territories. These policies include assaults with firearms, setting fire to homes and vehicles, the expulsion of farmers, and assassinations, among other crimes. And the 6th One Forest Summit began on Wednesday in Libreville, Gabon. The summit, held jointly by France and Gabon, is a 2-day conference to highlight the key environmental role and value of the world's rainforests. Announced by the Presidents Emmanuel Macron and Ali Bongo at the COP27 in Egypt, this summit will be key to preserving biodiversity and fighting climate change by focusing on the protection and sustainable management of the 3 tropical forest basins in the Congo Basin, the Amazon forest, and the forests of Southeast Asia. The major forest basins play a key role in regulating the climate by sequestering huge amounts of CO2, while they are also home to exceptional fauna and flora. The One Forest Summit will also be an opportunity to highlight the crucial role of African forests, largely unknown to the general public. On Wednesday in Nigeria, the leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress Party, Bola Tinubu, was declared winner of the national presidential election. Mahmoud Yakubu, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, announced that Bola Tinubu, 70 years old, won the elections in Nigeria with 8.8 million votes against the 6.9 million which went to the opposition leader Atiku Abubakar and the 6.1 million received by Peter Obi. The proclamation of Tinubu as the winner, however, did not go smoothly. Since the tallying of the ballots began, opposition delegates have denounced inconsistencies in the transmission of the voting data through the internet, along with shady dealings at several voting centers. While outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari said that Tinubu is the ideal person for the job and assured an orderly transfer of power, the main opposition parties of Atiku and Obi have rejected the results as fraudulent. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.